turn on your Ford's AC on a hot day and it hits you, that musty, moldy gym sock smell. You spray an air freshener, it comes right back within a day, maybe two. You start wondering if something's actually broken under the dash. Here's what nobody tells you: it's not broken, it's wet. And nobody ever taught you the one small habit that dries it out for good, completely for free. Let's clear up what's actually happening first. Your Ford's AC pulls heat and humidity out of the cabin air. That moisture collects on a part called the evaporator, tucked up under your dash, out of sight and out of mind. It's basically a small radiator running cold, and cold metal and humid air condenses water the same way a cold glass sweats on a summer day. Most of it drains out through a small tube underneath your truck. You've probably seen that little puddle under your car on a humid day. But some of it clings to the evaporator fins instead, hanging on in the cracks and folds of the metal where airflow barely reaches. And when the AC shuts off, that wet, dark, warm space is exactly what mold and bacteria need to grow, undisturbed, for hours at a time. Every single night your Ford sits parked. Here's the part that makes this so frustrating to chase. It's not one single cause. It's usually 2, 3, or 4 stacking on top of each other, which is exactly why one quick fix rarely solves it completely on its own. Recirculate mode traps that same damp cabin air instead of pulling in fresh air to help dry things out. A clogged drain tube lets water sit in the evaporator case instead of draining away like it's supposed to. A dirty cabin air filter holds onto moisture and debris right at the intake. And leaves or pine needles piled up in your cowl intake, the vent at the base of your windshield where the wipers sit, trap moisture right at the entry point before air ever reaches anything else. Any one of those alone is annoying, but usually manageable. All 4 together, compounding on top of each other for months, is exactly the smell you're dealing with. One quick, honest filter before we get into it. A sharp chemical smell, especially paired with weak airflow, usually means a refrigerant leak instead of moisture. And that's a real repair a technician needs to handle, not a drying out habit. Refrigerant leaks also tend to come with genuinely reduced cooling over time. Not just a smell, so if your AC is also blowing noticeably warmer than it used to, that's another clue pointing the same direction. If what you're dealing with is musty and damp instead of chemical, and the AC still blows plenty cold, keep going. This is exactly your fix. Let's actually do it. Step 1, check your drain. Look underneath your Ford, usually near the passenger footwell for the drain tube, and make sure nothing, leaves, dirt, debris is blocking the opening. It's usually a small rubber or plastic hose hanging down. Easy to miss if you're not specifically looking for it. It's the same spot regardless of which Ford model you're driving, just varying slightly in exact position. If you don't see water dripping during or right after AC use on a humid day, take note. That drain's probably clogged and needs clearing, sometimes with nothing more than a piece of stiff wire pushed gently up from below, or a shot of compressed air if you have a can handy. Step 2, clear your cowl intake, and this one gets skipped constantly because most owners don't even know it's there. Pop the plastic vent covers at the base of your windshield, right where your wiper blades sit. Usually just a couple of clips or a couple of screws holding them down. No special tools required. Pull out any leaves, pine needles, or built-up dirt that's collected in there over the seasons, and it collects fast if you park under any kind of tree. This is the actual entry point for all the outside air your AC pulls in. A clogged one traps moisture right there before it ever reaches the evaporator. It feeds the whole problem from the very front door of the system, sometimes even holding standing water after a heavy rain that just sits there breeding the exact bacteria causing your smell. Step 3, stop running your AC in recirculate mode as your default setting. Switch to fresh air mode for most of your drive instead. Recirculate still has its place. Sitting in traffic behind an exhaust pipe or driving through wildfire smoke is exactly when you want it. But running it constantly as your everyday habit traps the same humid cabin air in a loop instead of helping the system actually dry out between uses. Step 4, and this is the habit that fixes it for good. About 2 to 3 minutes before you're about to park, switch your AC off, but leave the blower fan running on high, in fresh air mode. That warm, moving outside air dries the evaporator core while you're still driving, instead of leaving it wet and sealed up the second you shut the truck off. Owners who do this every single drive almost never deal with this smell again. If you're worried about forgetting, tie it to something you already do automatically, like when you pass the last light before your street or turn into your own neighborhood. Some drivers set a habit around a specific landmark, a gas station, or intersection a couple minutes from home. so it becomes automatic within a week or two instead of something they have to consciously remember every single time. Step 5. Replace your cabin air filter if it's overdue, every 15 to 20,000 miles, sooner if you drive in a lot of dust or pollen. It's a cheap part, usually accessible behind your glove box with a couple of tabs to release, and it takes most owners under 10 minutes with no tools beyond your own hands. A quick way to check if you're overdue without pulling it: weak airflow on max fan is a strong hint the filter's already restricted, on top of any smell. Step 6. If the smell's already established, add 1 round of a real fix on top of the habit change, not instead of it. An AC evaporator cleaner foam, sprayed into that same cowl intake you just cleared while the blower runs on high, breaks down existing mold instead of just preventing new growth going forward. Look for one labeled specifically for evaporators or AC systems, not a generic interior deodorizer, since the foaming action is what actually gets it into the fins where the mold lives. These typically run $10 to $20 a can at any auto parts store. 1 can is usually enough for a normal-sized cabin, though a genuinely bad case might need a second can a week or 2 later. Follow the can's instructions exactly. Every product's a little different, and expect it to drain out from underneath the truck as it works its way through the system over the following hour or so. Now let's be honest about what this actually fixes. A musty, damp smell that's worse right when you first turn the AC on, and fades a bit as it runs, is classic evaporator moisture. Ford F-150s have actually had a documented service bulletin specifically for this exact complaint, adding an elbow to the drain tube because water was pooling instead of draining out properly on certain trucks. That's not a rumor from a forum, that's Ford acknowledging the drain design itself. Needed a fix on some models. If you've had persistent water pooling issues along with the smell, it's worth asking your dealer directly whether that specific bulletin applies to your truck. The fix itself is usually covered if you're still within warranty, and cheap even if you're not. Worth knowing if you're driving something with rear seat AC, a Ford with 3 rows, or the higher trims on an F-150. Those trucks often have a second evaporator in the back with its own drain, completely separate from the front system, sometimes routed to a totally different spot underneath the vehicle. If the smell seems to be coming from the back vent specifically, check that rear drain too. Cleaning only the front one won't touch a problem sitting in the back unit at all, no matter how thoroughly you do it. Some newer Fords also have a setting that automatically runs the blower for a minute or 2 after you shut the truck off. It's specifically there to dry the evaporator on its own without you having to remember any of these steps yourself. Check your settings menu for anything mentioning AC dry mode or evaporator drying, and turn it on if your truck actually has it. One thing worth knowing, so you're not doing more than you need to, the drying habit in Step 4 is meant for every single drive, forever. It costs you nothing and takes seconds. The cowl clearing in Step 2 is more of a seasonal job. Once in spring after pollen season, once in fall after leaves drop, unless you park under trees year-round, in which case, check it monthly. The cabin filter follows its own mileage interval regardless of the smell, and swapping it more often than necessary just wastes a part that still had life left in it. And the foam cleaner in Step 6 is a one-time reset for an existing problem, not something you need on a schedule once the habit's actually working. Treating all 6 steps as equally frequent tasks is how people burn out on maintenance routines and quit halfway through, which honestly defeats the whole purpose of a habit that's supposed to be easy. One caution before you consider anything more aggressive: never flush your AC case or drain with bleach, ammonia, or any caustic household drain cleaner, even though it sounds like an obvious fix for mold sitting right there. Those chemicals can eat through the plastic evaporator case and the seals around it. Over time, that turns a $5 filter problem into a real repair that costs far more than the smell ever did. Stick to products actually made for AC systems specifically, sold right next to the foam cleaners at any auto parts store. They're built to handle what's inside there without damaging any of the plastic or rubber components. One more distinction worth making, since it changes what you're actually working toward: a smell that comes and goes. Stronger right at startup and fading as you drive is almost always cleanable. That's surface mold on fins that are otherwise fine. A smell that's constant, doesn't fade, and comes with visible water intrusion into your carpet or a genuinely soaked passenger footwell points toward a cracked or physically failing evaporator case itself, not just dirty fins. That second scenario is rare, but it's the one situation where cleaning products and habit changes won't get you there. No matter how many times you repeat these steps, and it's worth mentioning honestly instead of promising. This fixes absolutely everything. One quick reality check before we wrap up, and this covers everything you need to know before judging results. Give this 2 or 3 full uses before deciding whether it worked, not just one single drive. If the smell is meaningfully better but not completely gone, that's normal. Keep at it. It took time to build up and takes a few cycles to fully dry out that deep into the system, especially if it's been sitting there for months already. If it's exactly as bad after a full week of doing all 6 steps consistently, that's your sign. The mold's probably gone deeper than a filter and a foam can reach. That's when a real evaporator cleaning from a shop is worth the money instead of fighting it yourself indefinitely, week after week with nothing to show for it. So let's bring it all together. Clear the drain and the cowl intake, ditch recirculate as your default. Dry the evaporator for the last few minutes of every drive. Keep the filter fresh and hit it with a real cleaner if it's already bad. Do the drying habit every drive, the cowl seasonally, and the foam cleaner just once to reset things. That's the actual fix, not an air freshener covering up a problem that's still sitting there, getting worse underneath the dash. If this finally explains that smell you've been fighting, do me a favor and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me how long you've been dealing with this.